So recently, I had the opportunity to speak with moms and women that are in all different stages of life. Some are young, some are older, some have toddlers, some have teenagers, some have adult children. And one common theme that I hear, no matter who I'm talking to, is how busy life is. And I'm sure you can relate. It never slows down. It just seems like there's always something else to be done, somewhere to go, someone to take care of. As moms, we are just busy all the time. And I think it kind of got my wheels to turning because I know that our children feel the effects of this. I know that our children notice when our heads are in a million different places. So if that's you and you've been looking for just wisdom and understanding as far as being more present with your children and slowing down, then this is the episode for you. Welcome to Finding Jesus. I'm Jordan, and I'm just so glad that you're here with us today. So like I said, I met with these moms. We were on a women's retreat recently. We spent the weekend together. And, this common theme that I just heard over and over again is how busy life is. Now, whether you work outside the home or you're a full-time mom and just taking care of kids all day, every day, it's just this common thread that we see is no matter what stage of life you're in, there's so much busyness. Our culture is just inundated with busyness. In fact, we have a friend who is in India. We do mission work in India. And the other day, Pastor Elisha called and he said, I spoke to one of the team members that was recently here on a mission trip. And she said, we're just busy. And he said, you Americans, you're always so busy. And I think it's true. I don't know what it is about us, but we've just decided that the busier our lives are, maybe the better, that's like a symbol of productivity. But I've really noticed that in our home, my children pick up on it. When I'm so busy, when I walk in the door from my day at work and I'm immediately going to chores around the house, or I've got to make my grocery list, or I've got to start cooking supper, I'm just busy. And that's something that as a mom, I really want to work on because I don't want my children to grow up and look back on their childhood and their memories be that mom was too busy for them. And so I've really been praying and asking God for wisdom and just being present. And so this is more like parenting advice. I'm glad that you're here either way. And even if you're not a parent, I encourage you to stay tuned till the very end of this episode because I'm going to tell you how this all relates and all of this matters in our relationship with Jesus. Because even if you're not in the stage where you've got toddlers or school age or teenagers that you're trying to be present for, I think this matters to all of us because it relates to our walk with our Father. And so, it's one of those things that all of us are looking for opportunities to be more present, to be mindful of our children. And I just came up with 5 tips of things that I feel like really help. And I think this is a fitting time of year to talk about this. We're going into the holiday season where there are even more activities and goings on. I laugh because I feel like I always say, I'm just going to wait till this and then things will slow down. I'm going to wait till this and then we'll slow down. And we never slow down. It was fall sports and we're like, well, great. Now that soccer is over, now that cross country is over and volleyball is over, things are going to slow down. But then we jump straight out of sports seasons into Thanksgiving and Christmas. And there are programs and activities and parties and all the things. So a lot of the times we're like, okay, great. After the holidays, things will slow down. Well, the beginning of the year rolls around and we set all these like resolutions and goals in place and we like hit the ground running with what we want to do for the new year. And so we're still just running ourselves nonstop. And then there's spring sports and then there's summer and it's vacations. And so I have just come to find as I get older that life actually never slows down. But this is a perfect time of year for us to think about being present and just being in the moment. We're making memories and traditions with our kids. And so it's important for us to find tools that will help us be present parents, present moms. So my first one is learn to manage your time well. There are thousands of YouTube videos out there that talk about time management and how you can be a better steward of your time. But I would really encourage you as moms with so many responsibilities and so many roles, if there are things that we can put into place where we can manage our time better, that helps us be present with our children when they are around. So for me, that looks like waking up early. I know that I'm going to get up at least an hour before everybody else in the house does, and that gives me time to spend my quiet time with the Lord. I'm setting my tone for the day. And then I do some other really practical things like emptying the dishwasher and, getting things ready for school before the kids wake up. So when I get up and do my chores, my to-dos, and the things that I want to do, like getting in the Word, when I do that first before the kids wake up, when they come downstairs, I can just be present with them. I'm not shooing them away. I'm not telling them that they need to be quiet, something that I'm still working on. But I've already spent my time in God's Word, so now I'm not trying to multitask and I'm not getting frustrated because I feel like they're interrupting something. I actually can just enjoy and be present while they're getting ready for school and be a part of their morning. So wake up earlier, save tasks for nap time and bedtime. One of the things that I want to do is I want to read more often. Well, it's just kind of impossible for me to read while there are 6 kids in the house and it's so loud and so much life going on. So I save things like that, reading and writing and, like work type task. Instead of trying to do those while the kids are awake, I save those either for nap time or bedtime. Create calendars and to-do lists. I think sometimes we can go a little bit overboard with this. Our calendar is crazy. We try to, plan out so many different blocks and times in our day that we know we're going to do things. But it helps. It helps hold you accountable so that, hey, this hour window is when I'm going to be recording Finding Jesus. And after that, I'm moving forward and I'm going to be back and present with my children. So just using really practical tools to manage your time well. Prioritize and delegate. If there are things that you can delegate to your kids, that helps you be present with them later. I'll tell the girls hey, in fact, I know you want me to go outside and hit the volleyball around with you a little bit. If you'll help me with cooking supper or if you'll help me with unloading the dishwasher, that frees my time up so I can go do those intentional things with you. So number 1 for me is just, managing your time well by whatever means necessary. Number 2 kind of goes into that is involve kids when you can. Include your kids. If there are chores around the house, a lot of the times they don't mind if they know that you're going to be doing them with them. So even when I've asked the kids to go upstairs and clean rooms, a lot of the times I'll go up there and sit on the floor and just talk to them and spend time while they're doing their chores and try to be a part of those little menial life tasks that it's not fun to do, but it's necessary. And we tell them all the time, we're a team and this whole team has to take care of the house, it has to take care of the family and make sure things run smoothly. But we can even turn those moments into quality time and just being intentional and present with them by participating and including them. Maybe it's exercising together, saying, hey, do you want to go for a walk with me around the neighborhood? I'm still able to do the thing that I want to do, which is be healthy and take care of my body. But now I've said, hey, walk with me or rollerblade with me or bike with me. Get out there with me. Sometimes it's even going to the grocery store. Some of our boys, when they want time one-on-one with TJ, he'll say, hey, I've got to go to the store and pick up a few things. Why don't you go with me? So instead of separating everything that we do from our children, involve them in the tasks that you sometimes feel like are pulling your attention away from them. Tasks are necessary. There are just parts of life that we can't avoid, but include your kids. That's my number 2, is just to include your kids anywhere that you can, even in those tasks that seem like they're not fun. You can make them fun when you do them together, and that's a way that you can be a present parent. Number 3 is a big one in our home and something that we've really started trying to work on more, and that is putting down distractions. And if I had to say that there's one thing specifically that we all need to put down, it's our cell phones. I remember when I got my first phone and it was a flip phone and the only game that I had on it was Snake, and I loved it. I played all the time, but it was a lot easier to put it down. Well, now our cell phone has everything on it. It's got my calendar that tells me what's going on for the day. It's got the weather, so I know how to dress the kids for the day. It has my email, so I know what's going on with work for the day. It has all the things, which is nice having the accessibility, but honestly, we were all doing okay before we had all of that access at the tip of our fingers. And so I would encourage you, put your phone down. For me, lately, that has looked like using some downtime features on my phone. Really practical tool. Set downtime. My phone goes into downtime mode from 9 p.m. until 9 a.m. And that means that I'm not checking social media. Nothing needs my attention that badly that early in the morning. And we set limits like that for our kids on electronics. We say, you've got to do all the other things first with your day, and we don't even look at electronics until 10 a.m. for our kids. So it's probably a pretty healthy healthy thing for us to have those same boundaries in place for ourselves. So use downtime. Literally put the phone down, leave it in another room. I find myself trying to do that more often now. I'm like, no, I'm actually going to leave my phone in the bedroom so that when I'm out in the living room and, hanging out with the kids, playing card games, doing homework, I can actually be present and I'm not constantly checking my phone and the text message that just came in. So set limits for yourself. We do it for our kids. Why would we not do it for ourselves? I know that sounds really trivial and you're like, Jordan, I'm an adult. I don't need limits and boundaries. But I think that you might actually like them if you would implement them. I've started using downtime and honestly, I love it because I can tell people when they reach out to me and they're like, hey, did you see such and such? I'm like, no, because I refuse to look at that stuff until 9 a.m. Like I need those first 4 hours of my morning to just be present and in the moment. So putting down distractions. Number 4 is be intentional. Plan things, carve out intentional one-on-one time. Now, let me know in the comments below if this is hard for you. I know life is chaotic and busy, and a lot of the times our kids want to do things even that involve money, and I'm like, hey, we can't be intentional with going out and going shopping every weekend because that adds up really quick. But there are other things that you can be intentional about, that you can plan and set aside time that you're going to do together. So time to play, time to craft, time to create, time to read, have fun with each other, talk, play games. Just intentionally carve that time out when it's like, okay, the kids got home from school, they've been away all day. I'm going to carve out this hour that's like, no, let's sit and talk about your day. Let's do your homework together. Let's be intentional with spending time together. And that may vary depending on ages. I know that as our kids are getting older, they don't seem to crave that intentional time quite as much. They kind of want to do their own thing. They want to be around friends more. But in our home, we're really big about not letting them isolate themselves or just always be away from the family. So that involves finding really intentional time that we can spend together as a family, planning dates with them. We've talked about Christmas coming up, and even gifting our children experiences that allow us to have one-on-one time with them. I think in big families, that's especially important. So be intentional with your time. And my last tip for you, number 5, is just to show yourself some grace. Sometimes we catch all these reels on Instagram and it's telling us how we should be more intentional, how to be a present parent. And if you're like me, a lot of the times I read those things and I see these beautiful, slow motion videos and it's played with this great emotional music. And I just start beating myself up and I'm like, God, I'm so missing the mark on this. I'm not doing enough. I'm not being intentional enough. I'm not being present enough. So my last tip is just give yourself some grace right where you are. I think there's a really healthy balance in saying, yeah, this is something that I probably need to work on, but also realizing that you're human. You're human and you're one person. You can't be everything to everybody. In fact, a lot of the times when I think about spending one-on-one time with my kids and I think, they're getting discouraged because I'm just not able to pour into them what I need to. One thing that I really try to do is to remind my kids that I'm human and I'm not their source. In fact, their source for everything comes from God alone. And it takes some of the pressure off so we can just give ourselves grace and know that our children ultimately need an encounter with God and they need time with Him. They love the time with us, but what will really last them and sustain them throughout their lives is their time with Him. And that's kind of why I said this episode is for everybody. So no matter what stage of parenting you're in, or if maybe you don't even have kids yet and you're like, okay, this sounds great, but I don't have kids to be present with yet. I just want to talk about how important presence is. My husband was out of the country for 10 days recently, and I realized how important his presence is in my life. Even those moments where he's not necessarily like interacting with me or engaging with me, just the fact that he was in the home made me feel better. At night, I didn't sleep as well because he wasn't there beside me. During the day, I found myself just kind of wanting opportunities to tell him what was going on and the things that I was struggling with in my mind or with my emotions, but he wasn't here. And so I felt his absence. And I think about my mom. My mom passed 3 years ago during COVID, and her presence is missing in my life. It's one of those things that multiple times a day, daily, I'm like, man, I just wish my mom was here. And my mom was not some big personality that was full of constant advice or, overbearing involvement, but she just had this strong, constant presence. And that matters. And I think that for believers, we need that reminder that God's presence is necessary in our lives and that it's important for us to take time daily to get into His presence. And that means, going into a quiet room and spending time with Him and allowing Him to speak into our lives and to fill us back up. There's a scripture that I wanted to share with you. It is in Psalm 16, it's verse 11. It says, "You reveal the path of life to me. In your presence is abundant joy. At your right hand are eternal pleasures." God's presence changes everything. It fixes everything. Maybe you've experienced this in the past where life is chaotic and you've got job situations or family situations, and then you go to church on a Sunday morning. I use church just because I think that's a place that a lot of us do feel God's presence strongly, but all these chaotic things are happening or you're in storms of life, and then you get into God's presence on a Sunday morning in worship, and all of a sudden you just feel better. It just makes things better. God's presence changes things. And the beautiful thing is that He provides exactly what we need, exactly when we need it. So it doesn't matter if you need healing or joy or rest or peace. Any of those things we can find in God's presence. And so I just want to encourage you today, mom, wife, daughter of God, no matter what role you're in, no matter what season you're in, find time to be in God's presence and see if that doesn't change you and make you an even better present parent or present wife or present friend, because His love changes us and it makes us more like Him. And that's one of the beautiful things about being on this journey with Him. So I'm so glad that you're on this journey with me. Drop in the comments and let me know if this encouraged you today, if this is something that you're working on, or let me know how this holiday season you're trying to be more present and in the moment. I would love to hear your tips and suggestions, and we'll catch you next time on Finding Jesus.